Good afternoon. My name is Blaine Iler. Thank you to Cynthia, Doug, John, Colonel Manis, and all the others involved with the Weaponization Watch and the incredible work that's being done here. I've gone through one of the toughest times of my life over the past 5 years, nearly 5 years. But my story is not all that unique, as I've found. While the events of my case might be unique to me, what I found in hearing the stories of others is that the pattern is all too familiar. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a father, a husband from Dallas, Texas. I was indicted in the Eastern District of New York under an alleged bribery scheme involving some business partners of mine. At worst, this amounted to potentially a conflict of interest, which, by the way, is not a federal crime. And in order to even believe that we had a conflict of interest, you had to ignore really, really important elements of timing of intent. I had two partners in a main business that we had formed for the purpose of serving better food to kids, usually in schools. In parallel, one of my partners, Michael, knew Eric, who was responsible for the purchasing of food as well as transportation and athletics in the New York City public school system. Eric and Michael knew each other from their days at a prior company where Michael worked, one of the largest food companies. Eric was appointed by a Republican mayor to bring innovation and change to the city, better food for kids. And this disrupted a lot of the status quo with the bureaucrats in the city that didn't like this approach that Eric was taking. So Eric was looking to leave that position and move back to the private sector. He and Michael joined forces and spoke about a beef import company that they wanted to start. And they brought my partner Brian and me in, and we talked about forming a business to do that. Separately and in parallel, Michael, Brian, and I formed a different business that I mentioned, which was established to manufacture better food for kids. And we all know that the food in schools is not great, and it was our mission to improve that. About a year into this process, our business selling food to schools was growing, but we had spent a lot of time and money with this separate beef company to try and get beef imported into the country, and it just wasn't working. And so we decided to separate from that business. Of course, that business had expenses and things that it spent money on to grow the business. At issue in total in this case was about $96,000. Of that, about 80% were actual legal fees, and the rest were travel expenses that the business incurred to pursue this beef import business. Now, you know, the government said that initially that this was a sham company. Ultimately, they conceded, as they had to, that no, it was a real business. We were actually trying to get the business off the ground, yet they construed the entire business as a quid pro quo or a conspiracy to bribe the school official, Eric, in exchange for favorable things that happened to our other business that was completely unrelated. And in many cases, Eric had absolutely nothing to do with. After a 4-week trial that you see permeating all these other cases, the judge did actually express serious doubt in our case. He didn't believe that, he was actually led to believe that the government was going to present a case where a bunch of callous businessmen paid off a school official to serve inferior school food to kids in schools. And that just didn't happen. Now, of course, there was an issue with some of our food, and the government focused on this in the trial. They spent a lot of time talking about some food safety issues with our chicken products, namely that they had bones in them. And of course, they did. However, they were manufactured for us by a third party. And as soon as we had any idea that there was an issue with these products, we instructed the schools to not serve them. We did exactly what we should have done to make sure that no kids were harmed. Nonetheless, the government portrayed us as callous businessmen, as I said, who would prefer to bribe a school official in order to put inferior school products in schools for kids. And so our case is on appeal now. We're very fortunate to be out on appeal and continue to fight this fight. We feel very good about it. And we raise a few issues in the appeal, which we think are very compelling. Of course, we didn't bribe anybody to get food into schools, nor did we bribe them to put product back into schools after they had been held after the bones. And there's some major timing issues that you really have to ignore hard truths in order to believe the government's theory. And secondly, we talk about how the government showed numerous food safety issues, pictures of bloody bones and things that had nothing to do with the actual case. And of course, if you're a parent, right, a typical juror in Brooklyn is probably a parent of somebody in school in New York City, or who themselves went to school in New York City. And we're fighting on those grounds as well. And so I'm proud to be part of this group. It's been great to get to know everyone here. I really appreciate all the work that everyone's doing. We're hopeful for our appeal, and look forward to seeing it play out.